Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Nonstop Nikhil. Today is December 20th and as you can tell it is definitely past 4 a.m. in the morning and I am still here in Beira, which means that I did not find transportation yesterday to make it out of Beira and continue my journey overland north toward Nampula and then finally onto Pemba. I figured it would just be easier and make my life less chaotic if I just took a flight from Beira to Nampula, which was an option that always existed, but I didn't want to take. It's expensive for just a 1-hour flight on the National Airlines LAM. But on the 21st in the evening at 7:30, there is a flight direct between these two cities. So why not just take it? I know it's going to leave. I know I'm going to arrive on time. And then from there, I can spend some time exploring that particular area of northern Mozambique. However, that means that I will be spending 2 days here in Beira. So what's here in Beira? Literally nothing. I mean, nothing that I know about. But I've got 2 days here. I'm going to try to roam around the city like I am now and see what's going on here. The city itself is pretty significant. However, for a tourist, I don't think it's a must visit if you're coming here to Mozambique. And in fact, nobody really does visit it for that same reason. Here, nothing really caters to people from the outside. It's all about the economy, it's about the port, it's about transportation here in Beira. Beira was particularly a very important colonial settlement because it allowed for transportation of resources from Africa's landlocked areas onto the Indian Ocean coast. The port here in Beira on the Indian Ocean does not only service the central part of Mozambique, it also acts as the main port for Mozambique's neighboring landlocked countries of Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. Here in this public square, we're not far away from the port and we're right in the heart of Beira. And you can definitely tell that there are some very, very old buildings which reflect the colonial history and the colonial era significance of this city. However, this is a city which remains important to the Mozambican economy up until today. Walking through downtown Beira, you can definitely tell it's a port city. There are influences from all around the Indian Ocean coasts here. You'll see a lot of goods being sold here from India, a lot of Indian people here actually, a lot of influences from the Arab world here as well. And the further north you go in Mozambique, you shift from a predominantly Christian population in the south to a mostly Muslim population towards the north as you get closer to the Tanzanian border. I just walked by a woman in a sari in the market here, so it doesn't get more Indian than that to substantiate exactly what I'm talking about. For some reason, Google Weather also told me that it was rainy all of today, and so I have my rain jacket around my waist at the moment. And then I walk outside and it's the predictably hot and humid weather that I'm used to. So I found a cafe right in the heart of Beira here, so I could get a cold coffee because I'm drenched in sweat already after 5 minutes of walking around. Among the pastries that they have here that I actually recognized was this one that you have in Portugal. When you go to Portugal, you eat one of these, pastel de nata, the egg custard filled pastries. They're really, really famous in Portugal, and it's a Portuguese colony here. Everyone's speaking Portuguese, so it's not surprised that they have one of these. And I got my cold coffee, and then we can keep walking around. I feel like I'm going to have to take these very frequent breaks given how gross the weather is here. Now that I'm out of the sun for a second, let me tell you the story of exactly how I decided to just take a flight between Beira and Nampula. On Google Maps, that route will take you about 16 or 17 hours. And from what I've gathered from the last couple of days traveling the public transport system here, it usually will take you double the amount of time that Google Maps tells you. So that means that it could take more than a day to reach Nampula. So when I went out for dinner last night, I met a guy who is from Zimbabwe, but he's working here, and he spent a bunch of time in the north of Mozambique working in the oil industry there. He told me that, he confirmed to me that the further north you go, the worse the infrastructure gets. And especially now, it's going to be raining this week. And with the rain, with the already terrible roads, the vehicles might break down, and it could take up to 2 or 3 days, possibly in the worst case scenario, to even reach Nampula. And getting stuck out in the middle of the jungle in northern Mozambique did not sound appealing at all, especially when I have to make my flight on the 24th out of Pemba. So I decided I would just book a flight It's going to leave tomorrow evening, and then I can slow down a little bit, enjoy my time here in Beira. It actually is such a cosmopolitan city. I'm sitting down here in the coffee shop. There are people all shades of brown speaking all sorts of languages. It is a clue into how cosmopolitan the Indian Ocean trade would have been hundreds of years ago, before it was London or Paris, which really became, in our minds today, the source of that cosmopolitan global identity. Beira would have been a global city at one point. I'm in an area of Beira which must be the old market. It's still a market today, but it would have been a more bustling market back in the day. You see there's a building behind me. It has the names Gokul Das Hansraj on it, an Indian name. You have people who look very mixed heritage here. Could be Muslim from South Asia, Muslim from the Arab world, from Portugal, from along the African Swahili coast. You can buy pretty much everything in this market, though it looks like a lot of the shops are closed. And right nearby is also the Beira Masjid or mosque. A lot of people were entering and exiting out of there as well. But some of the really, really old buildings do remain here, and they're really beautiful if vacant at this point. There are many reasons why Beira might look run down or uninhabited in the year 2019. A major tropical storm or cyclone hit Beira, which caused thousands of people to be displaced from the city while killing hundreds more. During that period in 2019, around 90% of the city had been destroyed by the floodwaters, and it's only now that revitalization plans are being put into place to bring a sort of renaissance or rebirth to what Beira was and what could be in the future. Strolling around, you can see the impact that those floodwaters would have had in 2019. The older buildings are sitting vacant, they're washed out, and definitely very, very run down, not suitable for habitation at all. And the newer buildings, are all being painted with new coats of paint. Behind me, you've got a major square here in Beira. And the square is just completely surrounded by all the major banks, including the National Bank of Mozambique. And it completely makes sense why you'd want to have that square here, because you're only a couple meters away from the port. So you want all your merchants to come here, find their bank, and be able to trust in their bank, being in a convenient location right by the port. But you can see that evident sign of water damage pretty much everywhere. Hello. Good, how are you? Yeah, thank you. Again, Mozambicans are very, very friendly, very, very nice. I feel so safe here in Mozambique. I've been out in the country, I've been in small cities, I've been in the capital Maputo. I've never had a problem walking down the street, vlogging like this. Usually people don't bother me, or if they do, they just want to say hi, like that nice woman did back there she was working at a travel agency. And I can't help but compare it to my experience in South Africa, because if you think about it GDP-wise per capita, the GDP per capita of South Africa is about $7,000, whereas here in Mozambique, the GDP per capita is less than $500. However, it feels so safe here. I'm crossing the Chifeve River right now. You can see it behind me. And it's amazing how they've built this urban park as well. It looks like another bit of the new, or at least revitalized construction that has been taking place after the storm, where they set up little eateries, little places for family fun. People can rent out bikes and little toys for children so they can play in the evenings. I'm sure this area is going to be completely packed. This is such an amazing multifunctional space on the banks of the Chifeve River. You not only have eateries and bars and displays talking about the ecosystem here along the river, but you also have an open air gym, you have a recreational area for children to play. They also have areas where families can come together and rent out bikes for the family. Being here in an urban park, which is so beautiful, so well constructed, so well thought out and intentional in terms of bettering the quality of life for people here in the city, you really wouldn't think you were in one of the world's top 4 poorest countries. On my way to the Indian restaurant, I just stopped by the train station because it has a quite interesting architectural style. It doesn't look like a lot of them that you'll see. It definitely doesn't look like the colonial style train station that we saw in Maputo. I wouldn't describe it as maybe one of the most beautiful train stations, but it's a unique one. I am still not exactly sure where you can actually take the train here in Mozambique. You definitely couldn't take it to any of the places I've been so far on my trip. However, I think you can take it to the Zimbabwean and the Malawian borders, and trains probably do run there. So I just arrived at the Indian restaurant. It's called Royal Indian Restaurant right now because I don't want something that's been sitting in the fridge half cooked for like a month because no one's ordered it. There's literally like 500 items on the menu, everything ranging from local items to local mixed with Indian cuisine to North Indian cuisine to South Indian cuisine. I'm gonna have to interrogate the waiters to see exactly where the restaurant owners are from, what they can do best, and what's actually fresh. There was definitely Indian men working there at the counter. Most of the waitering staff were local Mozambicans. However, I also talked to one of these ambiguously brown-looking people sitting next to me, really nice father and son. The son, who was about 40, 50 years old himself, told me that his family immigrated during his grandfather's generation from Surat in Gujarat, and so their first language now is just Portuguese. As someone local to this area, he gave me a lot of tips for how I should proceed during the rest of my travels. This is crazy marketplace right here. But what I'm trying to say, he was great. He gave me a lot of good information, and then also he ended up paying for my meal. And believe me, I am not so concentrated on my vlogging that I do not notice the craziness of this marketplace. I had no idea that continuing straight on this street, which is the same street where my hotel is at, that I would get to this market atmosphere here. It was definitely not like this when I left the hotel this morning. So now that I know exactly where I'm going, I'm only a block away from my hotel. So I'm gonna just chill for a bit in the air conditioning because it's so hot out here. And then I think what I'm gonna do is now that I'm here, I can get a haircut. I found a spot on Google Maps, and pretty much it's so bizarre because it's a spot here in Beira, and when you open it up on Google Maps, all the reviews are just by people with Indian names, so at least they'll know how to handle my hair. And hopefully also be able to communicate in English, because I thought I might have to wait until I go to Tanzania in order to get a haircut. But if there's somebody who can do it in English here, it'll probably be cheap and we can get it done sooner. Hello everyone. So I don't know if you can tell the difference, but I just got my haircut down by the port where it's pretty much all Indian owned businesses. And the barber shop I went to was not an exception. I think I walked in, I opened the door, and I felt like I was transported to India. There was like some Salman Khan movie playing, I think like Dabang or something, really loudly. I think also the owner of the salon was working on some other guys very much from India. They looked very much from India. And then I had two black Mozambicans working on me. I'm back at the Riverbank Urban Park here. Hello everyone, and welcome to day 2 here in Beira. It's a windy morning because I'm right on the beach and I'm in the Makuti area of Beira. Everything we saw yesterday was pretty much just daily life here in Beira, but what's marketed as a touristic site here is this lighthouse. Although you see images of this lighthouse everywhere in marketing for visitors to come here to Beira, it's pretty much abandoned right now. There isn't a lot going on. However, it serves as a reminder to the people of their connection to the sea and Beira's connection to its port. The lighthouse itself was built in 1904. However, over the course of time, it found itself in a very precarious position right here along the coast. I think there was some mismanagement or some lack of planning done when it was first constructed, but the lighthouse soon found itself being too close to the water for it to serve any real purpose. And there was one way that Beira chose to rectify this issue. They chose to run aground a ship also known as the Makuti right in front of the lighthouse so that it could act as a breakwater for the ocean waters entering the coast. As bizarre a story as it already is, this is an even more bizarre solution because the Makuti vessel behind me was actually a pretty symbolically important vessel. It appeared on many of Mozambique's postage stamps. So I'm watching out for the waters right now. Ooh, they're coming up the beach. But you can see that if the tide were to be really low, a large portion of this shipwreck would actually be exposed, and you could probably even walk through a lot of it, and so much of the ship is currently sitting right beneath my feet. However, even with just the portion of the shipwreck which is visible above the sand right now, you can just get a sense of scale of how massive this vessel might have been and just how much I'm walking over right now that is covered by the tide, by the sand, and is sitting right beneath me right now. There are plenty of spots to eat and drink right around the Makuti beach area. Here. My plan for the rest of the day is to walk back to my hotel because you get to pass through a couple of different neighborhoods on the way back, and we get to see another side of Beira. Yesterday we spent most of our time on the old side of Beira, and today we can walk through the areas of Beira as the city has sort of expanded away from the port. Now you've probably seen some really nice establishments here in Mozambique, like the cafe I was just at, and a meal there can run about $10-15, which isn't cheap at all by the standards of living here. No, people cannot afford it. However, these establishments are here to service certain segments of the society that are found in the cities primarily. So that includes just wealthy Mozambicans who either have money from Maputo, have import-export businesses out of the port from here, or have spent significant amount of time overseas. The other segment of the society are those here working for international aid organizations. So even on the street, as you walk by, you'll find offices for the UNDP, offices for MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières, offices for the OIM, and all those international personnel want a place for some R&R as well when they're here in Beira. However, visiting Mozambique and only seeing that side of the country would be like seeing exactly how the 0.5% of the population here lives. I'm really glad that we got to experience those chapa rides, those public transportation rides, those bus rides that take us off the main highways into the small towns, through the villages, so we can see exactly how the majority of Mozambicans live their life and exactly how this country's GDP per capita is so low, because you will not get a sense for that reality if you are here in the cities, if you are in the exclusive neighborhoods in Maputo, if you're in any of the beach towns on the Indian Ocean coast. Hello everyone, it's 5 p.m. I just got a tuk-tuk to head to the airport here in Beira to catch my flight to Nampula. The flight leaves around 7 p.m. I should get there by 8 p.m. And it's got to be a pretty small airport with not many flights flying out, so I doubt I should have any trouble there. What did I do for the rest of today? All I did was walk from the lighthouse to my hotel here in the middle of Beira. The walk took about 2 hours. You know, Google Maps says the walk should take about an hour and a half, but it's so hot and sunny, and it was burning hot. I was wrapped in my scarf to protect my arms from the sun and just trying to wipe the sweat off my face every 30 seconds. But I got to see a good cross-section of the city that way. Walked through so many of the local markets selling local second-hand clothes from the US and Europe likely. Walked through automobile repair areas and walked through really nice areas of town as well, which are right next to each other. Areas with international organizations, really nice villas and restaurants. I then went back to my hotel, showered, enjoyed the air conditioning because I really needed it. Even the front desk staff were so surprised when I told them that I walked all the way from the lighthouse back to the hotel in that weather. The tuk-tuk driver asked for 700 mezcal for the ride from downtown Beira to the airport. I'm sure that's inflated some bit, but you can't really do anything about it. But the tip that I have is that if you're getting into any sort of public transport where you're expected to pay a certain fare like this, really important that you ensure that the driver has change before you even leave. So I told him I'm going to be giving him 1,000 and that he should have 300 mezcal ready to give me change. If you don't confirm that they have the change ahead of time, you might find yourself in a sticky spot where they say like, I don't have change, you're just going to have to give me everything you have or find change yourself. Overall, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at Beira, a town that pretty much nobody visits but people should visit. And I'm glad that the tourist department is actually launching a tour guide to the city while I'm here. I wasn't able to attend the event, but hopefully that makes travel here a bit more transparent for the next set of travelers who make it here. Regardless, I'm really happy and feel fortunate to have spent some time here just to experience exactly how cosmopolitan a small town here in Mozambique can really be. I have no doubt that these will be themes which will carry through to our next couple of stops here in Mozambique.